Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Thursday, 11:21 a.m. California time. February 6, 2025 is the date. Nice and rainy out here in Northern California. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 1.8 across Southern California. A little bit of movement popping up here across the west coast, off the coast of Canada as well, towards the Cascadia subduction zone. We'll check on that here in just a minute. Right now, top story, the Santorini area of Greece, still seeing a bunch of earthquakes out here popping. Nothing big has happened yet, although the Greece area has declared a state of emergency on Santorini after earthquakes prompt more than 10,000 to evacuate there. I couldn't even imagine the fear that must be going through some of these folks' mind. Probably best, right, to make sure that everyone is safe and away from the area, just in case an all-out big volcanic eruption takes place. So since Sunday, hundreds of near-constant tremors have been recorded in the sea between Santorini and the island of Amorgos, the strongest measuring a magnitude of 5.2 on Wednesday night. Now, authorities there in the region warned of a high landslide risk on parts of the island, in which they have, of course, shut down schools, dispatched rescuers, and advised residents to avoid ports and indoor gatherings. Now, a lot of, they think that this is still just earthquake activity or maybe fault systems out here, plate tectonics here in action, but you know me. I think this is leaning more towards a volcanic eruption. Santorini here took its current shape following one of the largest volcanic eruptions in history, which happened around 1600 BC, long time ago, a couple thousands of years ago. Could we be heading up to that point right now? Who knows? Looking at the map filter, let me bring this up here. The last 24 hours, okay, this is the last 24 hours in the region. We got 234 events. That's still a pretty significant amount of earthquakes here. And I believe, let's check out the USGS model over here. A couple more, well, at least one more for today that the USGS is reporting after midnight. The seismograph stations out there are still quite active with earthquakes. Let me refresh this, make sure I got the recent data. A little bit less active, it looks like, overnight compared to yesterday, but we've seen this type of event a day or so ago where we had a little bit of quietness, not so many fours, and then it ramped back up. As we seen yesterday, a bunch of fours involved in there in that mess of a seismograph station. But this here is the last 24 hours, and the multitudes are still there, 234. And it's thousands of earthquakes here. I don't know how far back this goes. It shows 1,378, but that could be in the last week or so. I don't know exactly if this is in total tally, because some are showing that this is well over 2,000 earthquakes. But nonetheless, a little bit of migration here towards the Santorini area, which is right here. You got the Colombo volcano, and the majority of these quakes are, well, they're up and down all over the place in terms of the depth of these earthquakes. Here's a simple layout here showing the depth here on the side. 0 kilometers down to 25 kilometers here in the time span since February 4th. Now, it's been consistent here since then over the past few days or so, with multiple fives in there as well. A lot of shallow activity, nothing really at the surface level. I think if that was the case, we'd be looking at an impending immediate eruption here at any point. But it's been down there about 5 kilometers or so and deeper, which would tell me that this is a magma intrusion event underneath this area and localized to the region, which is the Santorini Colombo volcano with some migration over here towards the Santorini area. And who knows what's going to happen. This could be a worst case scenario where we have a complete blowout here between a couple different volcanoes. You just never know. This has not gone away. It's not going away. I'll be surprised if it does. But looks like they're doing the best they can to get people out of harm's way. These poor folks out here looking back as they leave the area. I can only imagine what's going through their mind. What's going to be left of my house? Are we going to see anything? These guys have an uncertain future right now. But as long as that earthquake swarm is occurring like it is, then it's best to avoid the area, whether it's in regards to a big earthquake coming up or a volcanic eruption there in the area. A lot of ferry departures from the Santorini area. So according to this folks here, it's called ferryhopper.com. They're the folks that are evacuating some of the people there off the Santorini region. According to the Greek authorities and seismologists, these tremors are due to tectonic plate movements rather than volcanic activity. They still keep saying that. It's interesting that they're saying that, but I guess, to keep the fears down. But imagine if the worst case scenario happens. Say that whole area blows up and there's a huge tsunami produced from that underwater explosion. That could be a worst case scenario. And then what would they say? Because the facts are right there. They have all the data pointing towards an impending potential eruption out here. They couldn't say anything. They'd be eating their own words. So right now, no one knows exactly what's going to take place here. I don't have a time machine. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't think anyone does. But it's leading up to something. I don't see this thing just dying off here anytime soon. There's a lot of the earthquakes there in the last, what do I have here? Last 10 days, I believe. Zoom in here. These guys showing a couple smaller quakes here around the Santorini area. A little bit of southward migration recently. It does seem like most of the recent larger quakes, the 4s and some of the 5s, are happening down here on the southern end of this earthquake swarm, which would potentially be a sign of maybe some buildup further down below the area in this region. But it's hard to say. Nothing directly underneath the Santorini area, but who knows what's going to take place. We could see rapid acceleration towards this area. And it's just, it's a waiting game here. A lot of the depth of these earthquakes, as I showed you, is fairly deep, 10 kilometers. A couple of them pretty shallow, but the consistency here of the inconsistency, I should say, in the depth of the earthquakes, or what's worrying, because we're seeing deeper earthquakes followed up by more shallow earthquake activity, which tells me there that magma is building up underneath the region, adding stress across the fault boundaries up here, the fault systems, and that's what would happen. You wouldn't see anything else other than what we're seeing right now if with that volume of magma building up underneath this area. It makes sense to see fractures and earthquakes up above the magma chamber. If this was going on, across the Italy area, around the Campi Flegrei area, could you imagine the craziness that would be going on right now? Multiple 5s, thousands of earthquakes. They've had their own little swarm out there, but nothing like what these guys are seeing over here. So I'm at least glad that these guys are taking the warning and getting some people out of the area. A live look at the seismograph station there, which is positioned down south here, the 4D station right here. That's going to be that seismograph station over here. It doesn't really pick up anything below 3.0. So even though it looks like there's nothing showing up right now, I'm sure there's earthquake activity occurring in there. And most of the time, the earthquake 3D globe here will show it. Check the EMSC model here real quick. Stand by for just a second. This is the last, I believe that's the last, is this last 2 weeks? I guess it is, isn't it? Oh, no, 24 hours. There we go. That's still a lot of earthquake activity. Look what's happening over here. There's definitely some broader scale event, too. It looks like it's unfolding. There's been a little speculation on whether this could blow out. Maybe it's a hot spot and it could see a super volcano eruption, but you never know. There's a possibility. Let's go to the last week here and take a look at some of the earthquakes. There's a lot on there. There's thousands. Not for sure if this is going to show how many there is, but Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to. And there's fault systems out there, but it's a volcanic arc area with many different submarine volcanoes, and the Santorini area has had some famous eruptions there in the past, and I don't think we would want to see that today. Unconfirmed reports of a felt event in northern Italy. Not for sure what that is. I don't really see anything showing up there right now. The Italy area. There's that 3.6 from. Is that today? It does look like it's from today. Yep, 24 hours. Not a big deal. The big deal right now is down south there, across this area. Let me check out the USGS model, see what we have here. Of course, they're only going to show 4.0 and above, and that's a decent number. 87 earthquakes there, 4.0 and above. That's unusual to see that many earthquakes on the USGS map internationally. The largest being a 5.3, 6 miles there below the surface. And these guys are keeping the depth of these earthquakes consistent there at 6 miles. There's a deeper one, a 4.4, a little bit further south here. Notice that migration pattern here across this area? It's interesting. According to an interview with the president of Greece Earthquake Planning and Protection Organization, OASP, this person right here, I'm not going to even attempt that. The current situation is that the seismic swarm is still evolving. They pointed out 3 most likely scenarios how might it evolve. The intense earthquake activity might continue for several weeks or even months without significantly larger earthquakes as already seen. It then eventually fades out over a period of time. What's the other 2 scenarios? Where'd they go? 3 most likely scenarios, but they only include 1. All right. Anyway, it's a waiting game. It's a watching game. All we can do right now is watch and see. But the good thing is that they're getting some of these folks out of that area, because I would definitely be getting out of there as well if I lived out there. I talk about going out there and maybe observing the activity, but at the same time, that'd be kind of a little sketchy trip. But it would be good to document and see what's going on as far as land rise and stuff like that out there. But I don't have any plans of going out there. All right, let's see what we have here. Little earthquake on Petrolia, Northern California. A bunch down in China Lake, Southern California. The one in Northern California here looks to be this earthquake right here. 1.8 showing up there on the seismograph station. I'm just glad they're reporting some of these smaller quakes now. For a couple weeks there, following the 7-pointer in Northern California, we're getting multiple ones here, and they never reported them. So it looks like they haven't included the threshold there, which is good, because that way we can see what's going on out here across Northern California. Looking at the earthquake 3D globe here, there's a little bit happening up north across the northern end of the Cascadia subduction zone off the coast of Canada there. Some across the Blanco fracture zone, it looks like. Definitely got some plate movement and adjustment going on here across the Cascadia subduction zone area back prior to that. The Blanco fracture zone here should add further strain with this type of fracture boundary. Tremor activity has actually been elevated out here, if I recall from yesterday. Let me take a look. 153 epicenters of tremor down right here, right pretty much off the Blanco fracture zone, in an area where we would expect some activity to stir up. But that event there on the Blanco fracture zone is actually from this morning. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the tremor today. Maybe a little bit more elevated down in that region. The rest of the area, as far as Northern California earthquake activity goes, got these smaller quakes out here. Nothing big for now. The Bay Area, San Francisco, pretty quiet. Southern California, not a whole lot popping down there. Generally small microquake activity up and down the board. No unusual swarming. The San Andreas Fault here sleeps for now, but that, may not always be the case out here. Earthquakes out across the oil fields, and one around the Appalachian Mountains there, 1.9 around the Tellico Plains, Tennessee. I've never been to Tennessee before. Furthest east I've been was Ohio. Actually I think I went to first and second grade up there. But that's about it. I haven't been back east in a little while. Furthest east recently I've been is Louisiana, down there doing a little storm chasing. All right, let's take a look at the rest of the globe here. Another 3.4 coming into the Santorini area right now. That showing up quite nicely on that seismograph station there. It goes to show you these three show up pretty nicely. Anything bigger, of course, will as well. But this most recent quake, these guys are showing it as a 4.6. Which would make sense because that looks like a pretty big signature there. I see 4.6, 1934. That would be the time period right now. So, yeah, interesting. And that's right in the middle of that clustering there across the area near Colombo region. But there's, like I say, there's a number of submarine volcanoes and seamounts out here. Just looking at this whole area, it's a mess of dynamics here. I'm gonna have to watch this pretty closely. So we got 4.6 right there in the mix. It's weird that they're not reporting that on there, but okay, we'll check back on it. Japan, a little bit of swarming going on here just in the Japan Trench. Some forest stirring up. A little bit of movement here. 3.1 across. Looks like it's just going to be off the coast here of South Korea area. That earthquake not showing up on the USGS map, but it is on the globe. Still watching the Nankai Trough area. Nothing major happening around here. Got a couple fives around the Indonesia Islands area, but that's typical on any given day. Nothing major going on across New Zealand. South America area, roughly about the same. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. A couple smaller quakes. There's a 4.6 showing up right now. Yeah, it's definitely a decent signature on that graph. (1,367) earthquakes here being recorded. I think that may just be the last 7 days. I know there's more than that, but I'm not for sure exactly how to change that here. But these, I don't want to go this because then it will remove all the smaller quakes, like the last 48 hours of, 3.0 and above here. That's still a lot of activity. But it's important to watch the smaller quakes as well, because that tells us what's going on as far as maybe surface fracturing, any type of strain out here, migration. This looks similar, eerily similar to Iceland back when the eruption there across the Svartsengi area was happening, before all the regular intervals of eruptions that we experienced here over the last year in Iceland. We noticed a big swelling of area like that and fracturing away from the main swarm, which would indicate magma underneath the region there. I mean, it's all focused mainly around the Colombo volcano. Some migration south, but again, we'll just see what happens, folks. That's all we can do right now, okay? Let's check out the space weather activity. Little larger M flare overnight, an M8 I know it was up in the 8 range, pretty certain it was. Pretty close, M7.6 it looks like. Since then, it's gone down. Let's go ahead and check out the space weather activity, see what we have. Yeah, M7.6 from 3981. That's going to be the sunspot I've been chatting about here in the last couple updates. The only one of noteworthy complexity in terms of the magnetic structure. Still quite a bit of popcorn, different intermixing of the colors there that creates that special spark in the sunspot called a solar flare. That's still quite active. Rest of the areas out here, even though it's got large coverage, not a whole lot of complexity. Same for the areas back across the eastern limb. So if it's going to do anything, if 3981 is going to pop off a major flare or a subsequent CME, you should probably do it now. Otherwise, it's going to be Earth directed away from the Earth. It's it's good for the aurora watchers, right? A lot of people love to watch the auroras, and right now, nothing major in the aurora forecast. Pretty quiet across the board. There's your flare threat, 25% chance for X flare, M flare, 85% chance. Taking a look at the next 5 close approach asteroids to the planet. Still got to put out my video in regards to 2024 YR2, which is, I think, up to a 300-foot size asteroid that has a chance of hitting the planet in the year 2032. So we're looking at, 7 years or so. That is definitely within my lifetime, I hope. I mean, I don't want it to hit us, but hopefully I'll extend that long. No one knows how much time they have on the planet, right? But interesting. I still got to cover that a little bit more. Just been busy with school here. A 9-foot car size, a 9-foot size car. That's a little one. 319,000 miles. It's pretty safe, and it's a super small asteroid. Nothing big or close in the approach for now, but they're always discovering asteroids. Look at that, 2025, 2025. These are newly discovered asteroids. All right, Storm Prediction Center for severe weather. Got a slight risk out here across the Tennessee area. Slight risk for some severe weather. A little 2% chance for tornado activity. Wind. Looks like wind could be a big deal. And a little bit of hail out there as well. Right now, Northern California dealing with some rainfall. Had a little bit of flooding out here. A lot of roads closed. In fact, they closed down Highway 32 from Chico to Hamilton City there in Butte County yesterday. I think it's open now. Quite a few back roads around here flooded. That storm system, it'd be out of here by tonight. And going to make a little bit of clearing out here across the west coast here for a few days. And then we got some more rain headed in as we head towards the middle and end of next week here with some Pacific Coast storm systems, which is okay by me because it's made a dent in the drought out here. Let me tell you, January was a super dry month for us, and it's looking much promising now as far as getting out of that drought. Look at that. Almost wiped clean away the surface and the deeper levels. Moisture anomaly, of course, we are soaked out here. So a couple days of drying out will be good here across Northern California in the valley. All right, let's see what else is there, folks. I think that is about it. Can't think of anything else here. Like I say, we'll just we'll continue to watch that. Again, I do have a seismograph station there, the Raspberry Shake Data Station 4D here, picking up that 4.6. A little smaller earthquake after that, looks like. That's probably going to be a 3.3. Oh, no, that's at 11:12. There's a little spike of a quake right there, too. So 4.6. They haven't included that smaller one yet. Anyway, wow, looks like they've updated that, the location of that 4.6, sitting a little bit further south here. It's going to be this quake right here. Got to watch that. You know, it's interesting that it's taken this southern migration here. All right, I'm out of here, folks. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening unless something major happens here. Don't forget, we have the member drawing coming up here on the 15th of the month. It's something we've been doing here for a number of years where we recognize and support our members by giving back to you that support us. And we'll give away cash prizes or geology mining kits. Or if you like some Earthmaster merchandise, such as a t-shirt and whatnot, you're welcome to choose from that. Jump on board and be entered into the Magic Fish Bowl, where we do our live drawings and pick out a winner. Sometimes we'll do a couple winners each drawing. I think I did 3 at one time. Who knows? I'm kind of feeling generous, so I'll probably hand out a couple winners on the 15th. So you just got to become a member today. You don't have to be a top member, the lowest member. As far as status goes, all are entered into the member drawing regardless. So jump on board. And I think you can do that on your mobile device now as well. I don't know if they fix that, but if not, you'll have to go onto a desktop and click become a member of this channel. All right, have a good one, folks. We'll continue to watch this and, of course, report back on anything that changes out here. For now, stay safe. Have a good day.